Welcome again to Reflections on the Community and its Cultures. This time around, I'll look at some unique pet issues and also a preview of a community cultural festival. Later on, Debbie Miller will talk to us about an upcoming pet seminar. Some very interesting information coming there. First up, Jim Dittmer and Marcia Bossi will let us know about the fun of what's become a big annual event in our community, the German Fest. All that's coming up on Reflections. Reflections continues now as we welcome Debbie Miller to the program, and she's going to talk to us about dogs and cats and things like that. But first of all, we're going to talk about something that the big dummy here forgot completely to talk about, and that's this lovely quilt that I made out of some, no, it was, this was put up by the folks who were here talking about the German Fest, because this beautiful piece of handwork is going to be raffled off as part of the activities at the German Fest. And I guess you will still be able to get tickets at the thing, and if you know people connected with the church, you can get tickets early. The early tickets are won't have any advantage in terms of who gets the quilt, but it's a gorgeous, gorgeous piece of work, and I was thinking about keeping it for the show, and then we forgot to mention it entirely. So that's why this lovely backdrop is here, because it would be available at the German Fest, the tickets for it and all that. Maybe I'll remember to say something else about it. Anyway, on non-quilt matters, on pet matters, Debbie Miller is here to talk about a special event that's coming up in our community, right?
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm just thrilled to be able to come and talk about our seminar that I've been working with Independence Animal Hospital. It's kind of a unique seminar, but also we're hoping it will be a very helpful seminar to pet owners in our area.
Okay. Focuses on pet owners. Let's see, you and your pets, providing for their care, mourning their loss. That's a lot of stuff to cover in a seminar. And it takes place, this is Tuesday, September 20. At 6:30, it's at the Civic Center, and it's available to anybody who wants to stop in and pay attention to it.
You bet.
And it's free.
You bet.
Which is good also. And how did this come about? I mean, this is something that I don't think we've had a thing like this before.
So many times, especially as we get older, as I'm finding out, when we plan our estate, we think about who's going to get the house and the cars and the investments and Aunt Bertie's china. But sometimes we forget who's going to get that little furry creature running around our house. And so when the time comes that that little pet no longer has an owner, the question becomes, what will become of this pet? And I have known of cases where the pet had to go to a shelter, where hopefully it was adopted. And
which tragically sometimes doesn't work that way.
Exactly.
I have no idea what the statistics are, and I don't want to know them. But
yeah,
that's not the best thing.
No.
And of course, the pet is it's a very important part of a person's life. If it isn't, they wouldn't have pets.
In Independence, we have a lot of people living alone, and a pet provides companionship and love, everything on a daily basis. And that's what makes that little pet important, not only for that person, but everybody.
Right.
And that's why it's important that not only we think about what we need to do to provide for those pets when we no longer can do so, but also to consider ways to do it legally, because just because you want Fluffy to have the Buick doesn't mean you can go up to the title office and have his name added. So fortunately, we're going to have Jeff Gettler, who's an attorney with Emmerich, Chubb and Gettler, talk about things you need to remember when you're providing for pets in an estate plan. And also, he'll tell you things you can and can't do when you make ready.
We've all heard stories, some of which are outrageous and some of which are tragic, about pets and wills or pets and intentions, to do $100 million for Fluffy or something like that, and you do have to make arrangements for that kind of thing. You can't just say it and it's going to happen.
It's going to happen, exactly.
And you can't just say that, well, yes, Fluffy or Spot or whatever is going to have attention. You have to arrange for it.
Yeah, and you have to plan ahead. It's like another segment of our program. Chris Gruber, who's the Director of Development from K-State's College of Veterinary Medicine, is going to talk about this wonderful program they have at K-State, the Perpetual Pet Care Program. And you can make provisions with them in advance, so that should something happens to you, the first thing they'll do is try to contact some people that you've named who might be willing to care for your pet. And then if for any reason those individuals choose not to care for your pet when you can't do so, then K-State will put that pet into their foster care program. They'll find a safe and loving home, and they'll with a really good family.
Yeah.
And then they'll call about quarterly to find out how the pet's doing. They'll check on the pets, and then they'll actually make a home visit also once a year to be sure the pet's doing fine. All the medical care for that pet for the duration of its life is provided for. So that's another thing you have to plan for in advance. But if you don't have anyone who can take care of your pets, that might be something you'd like to come to the seminar and find out about.
Yeah, and again, this goes on, starts at 6:30 Tuesday the 20th, and continues for about how long will it last?
About 2 hours.
Okay.
And in addition to Mr. Gruber and Mr. Gettler, we're going to have Amy Kozalczyk from AWOL, and she and Mr. Gruber will be talking about other ways you can remember your pets in your estate plan. Or if you love animals in general, and you say, well, I have this little bit of cash left over in my estate, I'd really like to do something to help animals. And I can tell you, AWOL, who's already served 600 pets this year, I imagine they will tell you some of the many, many things that they could use to help them serve those pets in their care.
Yeah. We occasionally see, when things get really tight there, we'll occasionally see a mention, that they like to have some pet food.
Exactly.
Because
cat litter is always a necessity at
yes.
AWOL, as you can imagine. And but then Chris Gruber from K-State, he'll talk about some wonderful programs they have up through their College of Veterinary Medicine that will help people and pets both. And so both AWOL and K-State will give some really interesting ideas.
And I'm sure along the way, in a thing like this, again, we're kind of looking at sort of end time sort of focuses, but I'm sure along the way we'll get some information on things we ought to be doing for their pet now.
Right.
A lot of people don't have enough of an idea what a pet requires.
And hopefully next year we're going to put on a seminar just about that very thing. What does a young pet need? What does an older pet need? And so that is down the pike, I hope, really, if I can put it together.
Going to turn this into an annual event,
I hope so.
Sounds good, sounds good. There's a mention here on some of the notes you gave me about some grief counselor information too.
Exactly. One thing I think we sometimes fail to overlook is that when people lose a pet, the grief that they experience can be almost as devastating as the grief of the loss of an individual. It depends on the relationship with the pet. And a lot of times if someone says, hey, I've lost my pet, we say, I'm sorry, and we move on. But for that person in mourning, it's really kind of it's more than just losing a pet. And Dr. Mac Hafen from K-State's College of Veterinary Medicine, believe it or not, he is a grief counselor who specializes in pet grief. And he's going to talk about some things that you may experience after you lose a pet. And he's also going to tell you things that may help you better get over the death of that pet. And there's an example there. He is funded through contributions that are made through K-State University's College of Veterinary Medicine. So there's another situation where people's dollars can help other people and their pets.
For a long time in my life, I was a cat person, too much of a cat person. I didn't take good enough care of the cat. But I can remember a couple of a cat that I met when I was in college and who lived with us then for a number of years after. And she was a really, really special animal. And yeah, you know, when she went, it was a very painful experience. You know, I mean, it was.
It hurts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not easy at all. And when she came into my life when I was living in this junky little basement thing in college, I thought it was a real neat cat, and there was a real neat poem. I was a lit person. Real neat poem, and so I named the cat Jeffrey, and then we found out that Jeffrey was a female. But so that was all right. That was all right. She stayed Jeffrey.
She'll always be Jeffrey to you, huh?
It was a very painful thing when she left her family, and that's something that you're not ready for. Something that you're not ready for.
Especially if you're living alone and that pet is what gives you company on a daily basis, and then it's gone. That's a big chunk of loss right there that hopefully this seminar may help you address.
And this is something that you kind of decided that we needed. And you kind of pursued it and found a couple of people who said, by golly, yes, you do need it.
Well, I lost a pet in February that I dearly loved. And the people at K-State College of Veterinary Medicine were so good to me before, during, and after that pet loss. I thought, what can I do that would help other people like me who are grieving, that may help K-State, the pets they serve, AWOL, the pets they serve, and also get people thinking about providing a good home for their pet when they can no longer do so. So I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I think it's a great thing. And again, it's something that we don't think about. We don't want to think about some of these things,
Exactly.
but life goes better if you do think about some of those things
That's true.
that you don't want to think about. And we had a chance to get a lot of good information on a number of different aspects of this at this seminar happening Tuesday, the 20th of September. It's a 6:30 event at the Civic Center in Independence, and it's absolutely free, but don't bring your pet, right?
Please.
Okay, yeah.
The irony of it all, please do not bring your four-legged friends to this event, or your two-legged ones if they're birds or salamanders. I mean, nothing like that.
Okay, so that sounds like a reasonable restriction. Great event coming up Tuesday the 20th. I want to mention again the beautiful quilt hanging behind us, because I forgot to mention it when we were doing the interview with the German Fest folk. This